right. The boys are back in town. We are back with another recorded episode of the Meat of the Matter. Podcast is live on Sundays. In the future will be 10 a.m. Pacific time, but because we're dealing with some time zone catch-up stuff in Europe, it is 11 o'clock next week, and it will be 7 o'clock in the Netherlands, 6 p.m. in the UK and Ireland. It is Mark Ennis and Peter and Tony, and we're here to talk today about, we're just going to flat out say poison. And how are you doing, boys?
All good, sir. How are you?
Hanging in there, trying to fight the good fight. Peter?
Doing great here as well.
Any news to report in the chaos of the world over in your guys' way?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
go
ahead, Mark.
No,
I was just going to say not so much actually. There's a lot of chaos everywhere, of course, but
yeah. Well, let's get right into it, boys. Mark's got a truckload of videos on this stuff, and I thought today would be a good day to talk about poison and just, what we think food is, and we'll see where it takes us. But I'm going to play a video that I think is arguably super insidious, and what message does it show? And it seems like this just never stops. So we'll just get into it and then we'll comment on it.
The top 5 cereals of all time. At number 5, we have Rice Krispie Treats cereal. It is literally just Rice Krispie Treats crumbled up, and you eat it as cereal. But damn it is one of the most satisfying bites you will ever have in the cereal world. It is a banger. At number 4, we have Honey Nut Cheerios. Yes, do not at me. It is sweet, it fills you up, and it is the healthiest thing we're going to have on this damn list. So take it. It's a banger. At number 3, we have Reese's Puffs. Reese's Puffs needs no explanation. Anything.
I gotta chime in there, boys. It's the healthiest thing that will be on this list. Really. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Sorry.
And
the top five cereals of.
Sorry. Go on.
I was just gonna add in one more thing. Every one of these cereals that he mentioned contains one ingredient that I mentioned on this video. So make sure you go all the way up where I mentioned at the very end.
We'll get there as well. I hope I'll edit it out to where we're at.
Reese's Puffs needs no explanation. Anything chocolate and peanut butter is automatically going to be at the top tier of any list it's on. It's a banger. In the pan-ultimate spot, we have Cocoa Puffs, another one that needs no explanation. It's one of the most satisfyingly chocolate cereals, and it also makes your milk chocolate. Bitch, it's a banger. Is anyone surprised that CTC has the ultimate spot? From the marketing, the branding, the taste, the texture, everything is on point. The ultimate banger. Cheese.
Right, these things don't surprise me anymore. At the end of the day, it's all about balance. Eating these foods in moderation will do no harm. What's the problem? Guys, listen to me. I've been here in the States now for nearly a week, and I have to say this, it's an absolute disgrace how many people are actually overweight. It's actually quite scary. Let's pick 2 of these top cereals that you just mentioned. Let's start with this one. Oh look, it has low cholesterol and it must be very, very good. Guys, look at the ingredients. Okay, whole grain oats, sugar, cornstarch, fucking more sugar, honey, brown sugar, and sunflower oil. I'll stop right there. Now look at this one. I only did a video on this a few weeks ago. Guys, pay close attention to this ingredient right down here where I have circled. I had to actually Google this. Okay, now look what it says. It says very, very clearly, harmful if swallowed. Guys, listen, I'm not here to tell you what to do. We're all adults at the end of the day, but what I will say is very, very clear. These foods are full of sugar, they're processed, and they're not good for you. The names on these boxes are only marketing strategies for you guys to buy. Don't fall for it.
Yeah. So there's so much to unpack there, Mark. And, harmful if swallowed, not only, I think we did this video before and we all had some stuff to say about it, but when you actually do the research on these chemicals, they're on the poison list. They're actually there saying, they're harmful, and yet they're putting it in cereal. And, it's one thing to be adults and not go after the sugar, but who is this marketing towards, right? Who do, those boxes, it's all a trick. And, I think we all grew up, my mom was trying to do the best she could, and I would have no sugar cereals. Now, all of a sudden, now that I know better. I mean, these are pretty much, you could argue, poison. They do not bring any nutritional value. Once you get past all the ingredients, the damage that this is potentially causing is mind blowing.
Do you know what I have a problem with? I'll tell you what I have a problem with. The big problem I have is when our loved ones get sick or our friends get sick, they're making us take these drugs for the problems that they're fucking creating. I mean, just think about that for a second. These people are creating these problems, okay? And then eventually, when we do get sick, we're still gonna be on their calendar, and then they're gonna end up giving us more bleeding medication. They're gonna be giving us more drugs. It's just insane. Now, when I went over there, I checked every single one of those cereals that guy mentioned. Every one of those cereals had the exact same ingredients. Every one of them. Every one of them that he mentioned. It's just insane. And then I had to look in my country. Now, thank God that ingredient is not in our food yet, but I feel it's on the way.
Can you
I
repeat
really
one more
believe
time what it does, this trisodium phosphate, Mark?
Sorry?
Can you repeat one more time what it does, the trisodium phosphate?
It's unbelievable. Like you get this in like what's it called? The cleaning stuff they use for cars.
Exactly.
Like this is used in like cars. Like it's used for cleaning chimneys. It's unbelievable. It's like if you actually look up what this ingredient is, it's incredible. It's very, very strong and it's very, very powerful.
Of course.
And we're actually giving this to our kids.
Yeah. And the other one, I know it's in quite a few cereals, is we talked about this a little bit before, is BHT, which is beta hydroxytoluene. If you don't know what toluene is, it's a paint stripper. And it's in there in shreddies to ensure freshness. So ensure freshness and kill you? Like what is that? And
now sorry, Tony, the one ingredient that's in the foods over here, in every single one of the foods, because I've seen it all. I've seen every one of the ingredients, and the one thing that always pops up is glyphosate.
Oh, for sure.
It's in everything. It's in absolutely everything.
100%. And like we talked about the glyphosate before, is now the problem is it's they've done the damage so badly that it's in our water systems. It's like, and people say, our organic crops, if you're spraying this shit, it's in the air. It will be, like it's almost irreparable, to be honest with you. Like and it's funny how we realize, what we've done in our journeys, in our path. We've assumed a carnivorous diet. We've eliminated a lot of the stuff. But it's getting to the point where it's almost impossible to eliminate it completely because of the modern agriculture practices. And what I find unbelievable is, in this age of information, in this age of digging in and being able to research, when people actually speak out, they get pushback to say, "Don't be ridiculous. The government would never do that. It wouldn't harm you. You guys are just charlatans. You're just creating fear." They're saying the exact same thing that they're actually doing. And it's unbelievable. And it's hard to think that it's not a total psyop, just to, it is. And it's probably
and most of us actually still trust the government. That's the big problem.
Yeah, and you have to consider that even if the government had the best intentions, they will be just guided by this scientific research, nutrition research, telling that something is safe because it's grass, generally recognized as safe, just under certain thresholds. And then, like we talked about before, if you eat double quantities, you'll get double the amount of toxins.
Yeah.
So
you
look at
the biggest thing that happened a couple of years ago, when every single one of us were all fools during COVID. What did the government do? The government were listening to the people. They were listening to the doctors and say, "Listen, shut the place down, shut the gyms down, shut down basically what people should be doing. But we have no issues with you keeping the supermarkets open. Let people drink alcohol. let people eat fast food, let people sit in all day, not go out in the sunshine, not be around people, and watch Netflix all the time. It's and we did that for 3 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people died, and these people had the audacity to blame this on COVID.
Yeah.
When I can guarantee you a lot of these people would have been poisoned.
For sure.
Think about that for a second.
And it's not just poison, but it's the dose, arguably, because we talk about it. Oh, it's safe in this amount. Peter, you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
But when you actually cut yourself off from nature, when you're not outside in the sunshine, when you're not accessing, what do you think happens when you're locked in all day? You go into the store and you're just seeing all this. You eat shit.
Yeah, and it adds up like medicine, right? I mean, you have this toxin, and you're allowed to have this little amount of toxin of this and that. It's the same with medicines. They haven't studied most of the times. I mean, sometimes they manage to do a little bit of study on the interactions of things, but yeah, the toxins, and then all the things you mentioned, Tony, all the lack of sunshine, that sort of things, and the fact that you're taking medicine together with toxins, and then you're also getting nutrition full of sugar. So you would actually need more antioxidants and all that sort of stuff. And instead, you're getting toxins.
Yeah. And I mean, and the saddest part about all this is I fear that if you're not awake yet, it's going to get way worse. And because it seems like there's this shroud of it's a block. Like they don't let guys like our channels, we're trying to be ambassadors for, a natural whole food lifestyle. And, this is where it gets so tricky because, I believe like this plant-based push, if you just look at this, and I'm not talking about the vegans that are in it for health. I'm talking about the push for plant-based foods. They know you're going to cheat. Doritos, Coke, they're vegan foods. You can eat Oreos. They're fine. They're vegan. It gives you an excuse to get this stuff in there. And they know most people will cave in and cheat. You can be as healthy as you like. There's always that, that cloud that's going to push you towards this stuff. And what do they want you to do when you cheat? And they know everybody does, will be eating this stuff. And it's just, vegan friendly, fake meat. All of it is just chock full of ingredients that we can't even pronounce. And that can't be healthy, and, we throw around the word poison. People go, well, it's not. You can eat it. Okay, well, slow dose poison then. What's happening? These people do not think tomorrow. They think years. You're plugged into a system that you're going to be part of. People are medicated. By the time they're 50 years old, most people in North America, anyway, I believe, are more on 3 or more medications. By my age, 3 medications for lifestyle. That's not even a disease. That's just, oh, you got hypertension. Here, take a medication for the rest of your life. You need this.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaky.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing when you mention that, Tony? Nobody's going to argue with you with that. People will just say, "Listen, no, I have to be on medication for the rest of my life."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I only heard someone on. I think I put a video up yesterday of a woman. Yeah, it was a woman. I put a video up of a woman yesterday that she was actually telling the world that she has to be on Ozempic.
I saw that. We'll go or whatever. Yeah, I saw that.
She has to be on it. And honestly, I watched the whole thing in just pure sadness. I wasn't angry at the video at all. I was just really sad because I was looking at this video and I was like, this woman looks around in her 20s. She looks like she's only a young girl. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, how have we got to this stage?
It's truly sad. I know. And like that was the thing when I started doing this. I don't know about you guys, but I wanted to scream from the rooftops. I was like, everybody's got to do this. It's amazing. Like, I feel so good. And you really start to unfortunately, you start to realize that no one's picking up what you're putting down. And they fight it like pretty harsh, and now it's just like, start with seed oils. Like, the arguments are amazing with seed oils. And it's just, are they that bad? People try to say they're not that bad, and it's, you can do it, and it's okay. Oh, sure. But 100 years ago, these things were tank lubricants and machine lubricants, and they were not eaten. So just that argument falls on its face, like, hey man, let's make $1 million getting people to ingest the shit that greases wheels.
Yeah, and if you think about it, even if it were safe, then for what purpose are we including all those seed oils? Because the last 50, 60 years, because I think it started with Ansel Keys, more or less, that era.
Well, yeah.
We went low fat and high on unsaturated fats. But what are we using it for? I mean, in terms of nutrition, it's just plain fat. If it were clean, it's just plain fat. Why not use anything else? Get your fats from something else. But no, we have to include it in every part of our diet, make this radical change in terms of macro composition, the fat composition in our diet, and expect that it will just not matter, or even think that it's beneficial because, we see the LDL dropping when you take it.
Yeah.
And instead there's all evolution during all evolution we ate in a different way. That's quite a big thing.
And when you just look like cholesterol is a problem too with the seed oils. Like, I mean, obviously we're talking about poisons. And if you just look at you don't even have to worry about LDL for a second. Just think about what cholesterol is. Well, there's arguments that 75 to 95% of the cholesterol we recycle, we make in our bodies. It's important. And when you just take the plant sterols that mimic the cholesterol, tells your body to stop making it. It's like the same, but it's not the same. So the body says, oh, we don't need it because it's there, but it doesn't do the same things. That explains why it lowers your LDL. That explains why.
That's a thing I bring up a lot of times in arguments in TikTok comments and so on. I'll be fair that there is no hard proof that shows black on white that consuming seed oils in small quantities is bad for your health, let's say, because it's difficult to produce such evidence. But there is a lot of, at least at the very, very least, suggestive evidence that plant sterols are bad, for example. And of course, also the omega-6 to 3 ratio. But okay, you could still say that if you consume plants or seed oils in small quantities and you take a lot of omega-3, then that argument doesn't hold for plants, for seed oils fully. But the plant sterols, you talked about it. There are probably poisons already in seed oils, but one natural poison in seed oil are the plant sterols. Because if you take the example of I forget his name again. Cytosterolemia, indeed, or phytosterolemia, then people acknowledge also in the medical world that it's toxic to your body to have that in your bloodstream. And there are also people with similar conditions and to a lower degree that can also experience this. And I would also think about it. Suggestive evidence is very important, especially if you're introducing new foods that are totally new for the human body, totally against all what we have eaten all the time. Then you should find evidence to show that it's healthy, and that it's non-toxic, instead of putting the burden of proof on our side and that we have to show that it's dangerous. No, it's the other way around. And for plant sterols, it's quite evident. I think that there is reason to at least have some doubt.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, like when we're talking about this, like we talk about cereals, and it's really hard for me to take my tinfoil hat off sometimes and not see that this was, generationally, like in the 50s when all this shit started happening, they made the boogeyman LDL, and they knew, I honestly, I believe this, they knew that they would have that ahead, like for people. They would know that it does lower your LDL. Seed oils do, and if they make LDL the problem, then we have the solution, and it's good for you, and there's no way they ever really, really know. And all the science has been like, it's all been speculative. It's such a big problem where people can't think for themselves, probably caused by the cereal you're eating. and then your fat cells are all made from this dysfunctional lipids, like from the omega-6.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, Peter, in your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Just look at that naturally. That would have been 1 to 1, maybe 1 to 4 tops, omega-3s to omega-6s. Now, what I've heard, it's up to one omega-3 to 24 omega.
Yeah, in Australia, right? Yeah.
And it's just, and that just shows you, like, it's crazy. And when we start talking this way, people go like, "Well, what do you know? You're not scientists. You're not doctors. God forbid our brains work and we start thinking, And that's all I ask people: if you can actually think critical, don't take it personally. No one's trying to steal your cornflakes. Just think about it. Right?
You can invent everything if you just take LDL as a proxy for heart health or general health, because then you can also claim that oats are healthy, because I think it will make your LDL drop by 5 or 10% or so. And if you think about a number like that, especially if somebody has an LDL of, I don't even know what the normal number is. So it's maybe 150 or so. So it will drop by 10 milligrams per deciliter. Well, I'll tell you that for me, that is
it's not good, is it?
Well, it's a little bit more than 1%, but it's almost 1% of my cholesterol, let's say.
Yeah. And there was a guy, if you guys ever get a chance to read this book, he wrote the book, The Dorito Effect. I believe he's a Canadian, and his name's Mark Schatzker. And he was trying to, he was just a journalist that wanted to dig into why we're eating all this processed food and why we can't stop. And he called the book The Dorito Effect. Well, he wrote another book called Why We Crave, and it's mind-blowing. When he dug into this, he realized that the food supplies in Europe and in the States with the Dust Bowl, how they basically monocrop agriculture destroyed the nutrients in the soil, so they brought in the petrochemicals, the NPK fertilizer, to get back in. But what they found was people were getting pellagra, which is a vitamin B3 deficiency, in Italy, in France, and in the States. So they had to get creative with fortification. And it makes so much sense that they were just all these fortified foods that they say are fortified and they're enriched. They're taking all this nutrition out of it, or it didn't exist in it in the first place. And they're putting in just enough so you don't get a disease. Vitamin D in milk is to prevent rickets. It's not healthy. It's not for your health. And it's like, you can look at iron in oats, all this stuff. It's all wild when you look at it. It's all big food driving just to stay hidden. It's absolutely phenomenal when you look back at the history of how we got here. It's crazy. And then they don't worry. We got drugs here. Take a pill. We'll get you fat, and then we'll get you sorted. But I don't understand, Mark, because they're celebrating obesity, and yet now Ozempic's the newest thing. You got to be on Ozempic. Oh, you got to do Ozempic. It's the thing to do. But whoa. I thought obesity was being... You see that cycle? From Kate Moss, skinny. Every woman on the planet wanted to be skinny, like just now. Obesity celebrated, but now we're going... It's crazy.
It's absolutely mental. It's honestly, the whole thing is just a circus.
And I feel for women too, because we know that I might get yelled at here, but they're a little bit more emotional. They care about different things than guys do, and it's all designed to just push this into push this way of shit. And now this poor girl that you just had a video of, Mark, saying she needs to be on Wegovy, which is the same shit, whatever, of Ozempic for the rest of her life.
And see, the problem I have, Tony, is it's getting younger. That's the problem I have. It's getting... I mean, I was only looking at the news there about a few weeks ago. This was around back in February. No, this was around March time, or February time, actually. And I remember them saying, like, as young as 12 years of age.
Wow.
12 years of age.
And just sorry to I'll just chime in on that, because Dr. Robert Lustig, right? I don't know if I'm sure you guys know who he is. He wrote the book Metabolical. He's been studying, the effects of fructose. And obviously he was a pediatric endocrinologist. The reason why he came out and started speaking out against this shit is because he saw the diseases of adulthood in kids. So he's like, something is up. in my 40-year career as a practicing pediatric endocrinologist,
did he get sorry, Tony, did he get cancelled?
well, he waited till he retired to start speaking out. So it's kind of like but obviously he's not endorsed by the medical mainstream at all. Like he's kind of doing he's a lone wolf now for sure. And he even flat out says he's not diet. He doesn't push any diet. He pushes the problems. Like if you look at it and look at contextually, fructose, specifically in sugar and our processed foods, is destroying kids' livers and leading them to type 2 diabetes early, obesity early. And then it sort of opened up he went down that rabbit hole, and he has the scientific clout to back it, right? Like he's been part of studies. And I don't know how this guy is not a household name and everybody paying attention to this, because it goes across all platforms. He believes there's a place for keto. He believes there's a place for carnivore. He says you can be vegetarian if you do it properly. He's about nutrition, and it's crazy how these guys, these doctors that are actually trying to make a difference, are just getting silenced as opposed to being, it's wild. So let's switch gears here, boys. I got another video lined up that Mark put out, and we'll get into this because it kind of falls right into this. So bear with me.
My name is Courtney Swan. I have a Master's of Science in Nutrition, and I host the Real Foodology podcast. And thank you so much for listening to us today. Our food is being tainted by dangerous chemicals, and it's making us sick. In 2009, I started to get debilitating stomach aches. I bounced around between specialists with no clarity for 2 years until 2011, when I was diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. I was also told to avoid corn and soy, which are common food sensitivities amongst my generation. Unfortunately, my story is not unique. Clueless to how this was connected to our food system, I started to do some digging. What I found was alarming. Our current agriculture system origin story involves large chemical companies, not farmers, chemists. 85% of the food that you're consuming started from a patented seed sold by a chemical corporation that was responsible for creating Agent Orange in the Vietnam War. Why are chemical companies feeding America? Corn, soy, and wheat are not only the most common allergens, but are among the most heavily pesticide-sprayed crops today. In 1974, the U.S. started spraying our crops with an herbicide called glyphosate. And in the early 1990s, we began to see the release of genetically modified foods into our food supply. It all seems to begin with a chemical company by the name IG Farben, the later parent company of Bayer. Farben provided the chemicals used in Nazi nerve agents and gas chambers. Years later, a second chemical company, Monsanto, joined the war industry with the production of Agent Orange, a toxin used during the Vietnam War. When the wars ended, these companies needed a market for their chemicals. So they pivoted to killing bugs and pests on American farmlands. Monsanto began marketing glyphosate with the catchy name Roundup. They claimed that these chemicals were harmless and that they safeguarded our crops from pests. So farmers started spraying these supposedly safe chemicals on our farmland. They solved the bug problem, but they also killed the crops. Monsanto offered a solution with the creation of genetically modified, otherwise known as GMO crops, that resisted the glyphosate in the Roundup that they were spraying. These Roundup-ready crops allow farmers to spray entire fields with glyphosate to kill off pests without harming the plants. But our food is left covered in toxic chemical residue that doesn't wash, dry, or cook off. Not only is it sprayed to kill pests, but in the final stages of harvest, it is sprayed on the wheat to dry it out. Grains that go into...
Okay, so, that one's pretty long, but we all get the idea. And that's actually makes me think about somebody who just said, shut up, eat vegetables, you just wash them off. Clearly, he's never heard of osmosis or absorption, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, plants, what are they, exoskeleton, titanium shelled, where they don't absorb anything from the environment? Like, that argument is so ridiculous.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
They do make a good point about animals eating that shit too, which we have to be concerned about because it's everywhere. And I'll ask you guys, when you hear something like that, why is there pushback from normal family people? Moms say that's ridiculous. That's what drives me crazy, is we can't even hear that with an open heart, with an open arms, and take in the information and really take it for what it is.
It's simple. It's simple because they won't allow that message to come out. Because when I put that video up, I was actually warned from TikTok. I wasn't allowed to put that video up. That video, it took me 10 attempts to put that video up.
Jesus.
10 attempts. I was on that video for at least 2 hours. 2 hours. And every time I kept on putting it up, they were taking it down. They were saying it goes against their regulations. And I had to keep on going back to them saying, listen, give me a reason why you're taking this video down. And then eventually we got, but honestly, it took about 10 attempts. It was unbelievable. And that's what I'm noticing now when I put up these videos. If you watch my views, when I put up these videos, I get very, very small views on these videos. Whereas if I put a video up of just like, say, I don't know, weight loss or calories or whatever, my views are going really, really high. But every time I put a video up of this, the views are very, very small. And that's the audience that I want to be hitting. Not getting around 50 views on my videos. That's ridiculous. So they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And that's what frustrates me, because that video should have blew up on my TikTok, because it did on Instagram. When I put it up on Instagram and Facebook, it blew up, absolutely blew up. I had people texting me nonstop, but I haven't had one comment on TikTok about that video, not one.
That's great. Peter, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm always amazed about why are we doing it, right? Why do we need all these pesticides? It's always like, oh, it's safe and under certain thresholds. We talked about it, and we take all this effort to emphasize it's safe and safe. And why not stick to old methods? I mean, it's not like we cannot feed the world without those pesticides, in my opinion. There are, or at least, like if you talk about glyphosate, there are alternative pesticides. You could also think about organic pesticides, although they are not necessarily always good either. But if you want to use pesticides, why take all this effort to show that it's safe? Well, I can only think of a few reasons. The obvious one being money. The other one, influence of large companies, that sort of things. But yeah, in the end, it all boils down to money, basically.
Yeah, and if you looked at a mom and said, "What's a big company?" Okay, Clorox bleach. Do you guys have Clorox in Europe?
Clorox, I don't know.
Or Lysol cleaner, Pine Sol. If you looked at a mother and said, by the way, those shreddies that you're eating is made by the company that makes Lysol, what would they say? They'd probably say, don't be ridiculous. But actually, when you actually trace back from the box to the chemicals being made, to the plants to the crops that they're growing, to the seeds, to the pesticides, it is. These chemical companies are controlling our push food supply. The ones that they want us to eat, the plant-based, corn, wheat, and soy, they're made by chemical companies and then when you're sick, they also own the pharmaceuticals. It's crazy.
Yeah, what you will also see is, I mean, I mentioned money being the big driver behind it, but what you'll typically see is that there is an urge to continuously produce new inventions. I mean, you could think about the aisle in the supermarket where you get the washing soaps or the dishwasher soaps or the laundry detergent. Every year they'll invent something new, a new shape of tablet with a new compound that will make it slightly easier to do your laundry or whatever. The same with detergents. Well, I don't think we need a new type of soap, for example, to do the dishes. I mean, we could do that 50 years ago as well, and say that it gives 0.5% of more comfort or so. Or in most cases, it will probably just be like 1 or 2% more of profit for certain companies. That sort of arguments. Yeah, what are we doing it for? And then we're taking all these risks in terms of not knowing about safety aspects of all these things.
No kidding. And if you look at what actually
and
soap,
you know what? So,
go ahead.
go
Mark.
ahead, Tony.
When you actually look at what soap and detergents are, they're fat rendered by lye. That's all it is. It's a chemical reaction that renders fat into being able to absorb more fat. And
and if it isn't, it's full of crap. The soap,
actually,
basically.
and I've heard this. I don't know how true this is, but how they found this out was back in the prehistoric times when they were doing these animal sacrifices and like for food, whatever, they're butchering animals in nature. The blood and the fat were running down the rivers, and they noticed that through the natural alkalinity of the river, it started foaming up, and they realized that it was catching things. That's how they created soap. It was actually a natural occurring chemical reaction with fat. So, when we look at all these scents and all these stuff that hold grease more or whatever, like better under heat, better under look, realistically, soap, once you do the chemical reaction, it's just rendered fat in a different form. It's unbelievable how natural that used to be and why we need all these stuff exactly.
That's maybe a nice roundtable question. Like what kind of soaps or soaps for the dishes? What kind of things do we use in the house, or for cleaning the table, for example?
Mark, you want to go?
I just use whatever she buys. That's pretty much it. Whatever she buys, I just use. I don't really care, to be honest.
What about you, Peter?
Yeah, well, the soaps I buy something. So I'm totally not. I'm surely not 100%. Let's say carnivore or anything in terms of soap, but I do buy a tallow-like soap from the drugstore. And for cleaning the house, I'll use something made myself with vinegar and alcohol.
Yeah, that's kind of like me too. I mean, I try and stay away. I have a couple, emergency dish soaps, but I try and be as organic as I can. I mean, it's hard to say, and it's funny because they throw in this. Well, no soap or technically is organic because you need a chemical. You need lye to render the fat. So theoretically, but it's just a pH thing. It's not really. It once the lye gets broken down, it changes everything. So lye becomes base. It's not, if it's neutral, it's not really lye anymore. But I use a lot of apple cider vinegar. I don't use soap on my body. I use like a charcoal natural soap to wash my hands, and I don't use shampoo.
Yeah, I'm the same. I haven't used any of that in a lot. I just use tallow, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Everything I use, and I use coconut oil. I think I've mentioned this before. I use
Oh, yeah.
coconut oil on my hair.
Yeah.
I use coconut oil to brush my teeth. I haven't used any of this stuff. I haven't bought any of this stuff. I think we mentioned this on our last video. But yeah, when it comes to that kind of stuff and myself, I always make sure I just stick with like tallow, coconut oil, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a mess, man. And they got to add, you just look at the ingredients of all that stuff. Like they have sodium lauryl sulfate or something. It's to make things sudsy, to make things, and it's all that visual perception that, the more the soap lathers, the better it is. And that's absolute bullshit. Like it doesn't make a difference. It's pretty interesting, these natural stuff, these natural things. And I mean, that's a whole other thing where they get you with products and fragrances and scents. Like they make things smell. And I think we've brushed on this before too, is I can get a headache just by smelling these fragrances. Like I used to use dryer sheets. I just put a couple of these balls in the dryer now. They're wooden balls and they just make a lot of noise, but they actually stop the static, which is kind of interesting. All this stuff we've been tricked. It's never ending. And I mean, and that's where, you know, I think with when we're talking about poisons, they've got every avenue licked. Like, it's not just your food. You know, like,
No.
they've got the stuff you put on your skin. They've got the technology that you're watching, you know, and we all just talked about how, you know, we try and take a break from social media, especially TikTok, because it's so overstimulating, you know, and as much as I love to use it to get the message to people, it's interesting. And Mark, you said it best, when you start actually sharing really, really important information, it's funny how that doesn't get pushed out there.
Yeah, and like I said to you at the very start, Tony, it's just like, how long can you just keep on doing the exact same videos all the time?
No
You know what I
doubt.
mean? Because I've spoken so many times about different topics, but it's like nobody's actually listening. And then when I do see someone talking crap again about something, it's like I've done this video probably around 40 times. How can I actually do it again? How can I say it completely different? And that's what annoys me, is that every day when I see something, I'm like, okay, I have to do another video. But how
Yeah.
am I actually going to word this again instead of just being a broken record all the time?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if you guys know Eddie Abu. He does the same
Oh,
thing.
oh
He
yeah.
just talks about the exact same thing every single day.
Eat some
And
eggs, wake the fuck up, right?
yeah, and people are just and he said it perfectly. He said it, the more he keeps on saying it, the more people are just gonna listen. So that's basically what I do. I just keep on giving it the same advice every single day. And I know that if I get one or two people that have never heard of this before, and they're coming on and they're learning, then so be it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here to, like, Peter. When we bring in, you know, it starts with your diet, obviously. I mean, for yourself, being a type 1 diabetic, you were probably you had to be concerned with what you're putting in your mouth. You had to be concerned with sugar. Now, where has that led you to your awareness? Like, how much more are you aware of other things, and how do they affect you?
Yeah, well, I think I became aware a lot of things already just from my diabetes, of course. You learn suddenly about carbohydrates. So I probably knew before my diabetes that there are like carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but I never cared to count it. And I think I did know somewhat that bread is rich in carbohydrates, for example. But that sort of things you think about, that's already. I mean, many more people start to realize these things now, but yeah, still not so much. But yeah, you have to start reading food labels to know what you're eating in that case, and then of course you'll come across all these other words. And I think if you are a normal, curious person, that you start at least to wonder, like, oh, this is a strange word. Let's look it up. That's not like stressing or so, because a lot of times influencers on social media will tell you, like, are you reading the food labels? So you don't stress about it. And probably also there's the assumption, like, government takes care of us, it's all regulated and that sort of things. So I started to read food labels. I never cared so much about actually about calories or so, because I never had weight problems. So I was already on the right track, I think. And then eventually I came to the carnivore keto, or actually first the low carb, the world, let's say. And then you open up your eyes a lot, like all three of us have experienced probably. And you start to realize, now that we are talking about toxins in not just food, but also in the environment, and you realize things like, like you mentioned also, the abstract idea of that social media are in a way toxins. And while you were talking about it, I was thinking about the fact that also your furniture, for example, is toxic.
And your
If you buy
clothes.
things at IKEA, then things are regulated. And 30, 40 years ago, those laminated things would contain all kinds of glue that would, evaporate fumes during I don't know how many years, and that has been regulated. So now they use something different. It's a bit like the same story like the Teflon pans. Now they use something different, and of course that different thing is perfectly safe.
And I bet you it makes more money.
Yeah. That is, well, it makes money more money per definition. It's a new thing again, so they have to sell out a new batch of pans, and yeah.
That's something, Mark.
Crazy.
Mark, do you ever worry about what your clothes? Do you ever think about those things, and like what Peter mentioned, furniture? Are you that far, or is it? What do you think?
No, I wasn't even aware. I wasn't even aware of this, Peter. So thanks for telling me.
Yeah, not replacing my furniture yet. So
that's where like it's funny because I'll have my little community meetings or like the meetings with my clients and stuff, and I'm really, really worried because like I go down these rabbit holes and it's just like, oh my God, another thing I've got to be concerned about. And it's really, I mean, now I'm at the point where I'm just, nothing's off the table. Like nothing surprises me anymore. And it's stuff that I haven't thought of. And you're like, okay.
Except coffee, right?
Yeah.
I have to mention coffee every time.
Yeah.
But hey, what, you're sitting naked on your sofa. How's that leather doing? What's that? Right? That's, and your sheets. Like we spend a lot of time in bed. We spend a lot of time in our and I mean, Egyptian cotton is rare, right? Polyester and ester. Just say that that's plastic and chemicals. Yeah, I think.
Well, now that you talked about it, I replaced my bed because I'm going quite minimalistic, and I still had a large elevated bed, and now I'm sleeping on the floor actually. So I just keep it simple. There's a mattress still slightly elevated for circulation, but very recently I bought a mattress cover made from lamb's wool. It's super nice. I mean, just much better than sleeping directly on a latex mattress, for example. And also things like the, how do you call it in English, the duvet or
duvet,
the thing anyway, the covers that go at least for cotton, I'd say. I mean, it would be insanity to go for like polyester or so.
Yeah, these are things that we don't think about, right? And when we're bringing this stuff out to the awareness, it's like, fix your diet. I'm 100% behind that. But then when you start to look at like I would love to live in a cave or a hut and just skins, like sheep skins for my clothes and covers. But we do have to live in this modern life in this modern time.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? Like it's just.
Well, your hat, for example, is probably. I mean, I also have those things. They are not made of wool or anything. No. They are usually.
It's killing me right now. It's killing me slowly.
Yeah.
We call it a toque in Canada. I don't think you guys call them toques, but yeah.
This stuff here. Yeah, I'm going to make noise, but if I just pull, it's all artificial, right? It's.
So anyway, guys, let's wind it up today. But the message is toxins and poisons are everywhere, and obviously, in my opinion, before we say goodbye, I would like to say that the thing you can control and get and is be aware, and whatever you can do to kind of hedge your bets, mitigate some of the damages that forever chemicals and all these pesticides and herbicides are out. That's why I know for myself personally, I'm an ambassador for a carnivorous diet, but it's really comes down to trying to eat a whole natural food diet, which trying to eliminate as much as you can and do the best you can. And, how are you guys winding up closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on the same level as you, Tony. It's just we need to get this sorted out as soon as possible. The quicker the better.
Peter?
We just need to keep on spreading the message. That's all we can do.
Peter?
Yeah, not so much to add. I wish everybody a toxic evening.
You're poisoning yourself right now.
Yeah.
So, you know what, guys? We're here every Sunday live on YouTube at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. until you guys catch up with Daylight Savings. This is the Meat of the Matter podcast. It's been an interesting conversation, but just the increasing the awareness, and please help us out, help us spread the message. And we're trying to change the world. We're trying to change the thoughts in people's minds, and it's quite often the people that don't know about us that matter. And if you have any ideas or any suggestions, leave a comment. Help us push this to the right people. Mark, where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, guys, you can reach out to me at Fitness Beyond Time on all platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or you can send me a direct email at nsmark93@gmail.com.
And Peter?
I'm the Dutch Carnivore.
Yes, he is. And I am a Tony Stewart coach. Obviously, you can check me out on my website and TonyStewartCoaching.com. I promise on Sunday we're gonna raise up the energy. It's been a little bit of a toxic one, but these are the conversations.
Yeah.
These are the conversations that we have to have, and it's one of those. If we're being honest and being real, it's important to talk about these things and not be discouraged, and just do the best you can and do the best we can to inform. We're not trying to drive any fear. We're just trying to bring the awareness into another perspective on things that you may not have heard before. So that's Mark, he's Peter, I'm Tony, and we will see you on Sunday.